Chapter 15, Sunrise Surprise. Disco Witch Manifesto number 13. The great balance is our eternal aim, but we can never stop dancing, even if the great darkness is spinning in the DJ booth. At 5:03 a.m., Joe had finished mopping the floor and hosing down the sludge mat. All in all, his end of the night bar cleaning duties took on one entire side of Elliot's mixtape, Love Songs 1. Joe's pulse wouldn't stop buzzing from the first night's excitement, not to mention the devil dog size of dollar bills in his pocket. In order to blow off steam before bed, Joe decided to watch the sunrise on the beach while finishing the leftovers in his Charlie's Angels lunchbox. Barely a 70-foot walk from the bar door, stepping onto the beach at dawn was like arriving in a temporary paradise, with its miles of empty sand, raging ocean, cawing gulls, and spectacular awakening sky. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning, sailor's heed warning. He whispered out loud to himself. How to identify coming storm was one of the few things his late father, a former Navy man, had taught him. Although beyond a few wisps of red, that morning sky was mostly orange, yellow, and a little purple. What did that foretell? Elliot had been obsessed with sunrises. Once he and Joe had spent a week together on Ocean City, New Jersey, and he'd insisted they depart Philly at 3 in the morning so they could catch the sunrise over the ocean together. When they reached the Great Egg Harbor Bridge, Elliot had shouted, "I spy the bay!" with glee. It had been his family's tradition that whoever was the first to see their watery destination shouted it out as if they had won something. Joe loved how Elliot was able to mix his powerful, grown man self with a child's sense of wonder. As the sun's blazing head tipped over the horizon, a strong breeze blew salty, sweet air up Joe's nose. Just then, from the corner of his eye, Joe noticed a tall, brawny man in a gray sweatshirt and jeans walking along the edge of the water 100 yards down the beach. It was him, the gladiator man. Remembering Ronnie's advice to never miss opportunities, Joe dropped his lunchbox and darted onto the sand, waving his arms wildly. "Hey, you! Can you talk to for a minute?" he screamed. "Stay right there, just for a second." The gladiator man stopped walking, adjusted his stance so the rising sun illuminated his perfection, and then he waved back. Joe's heart kicked like a rabbit. It was going to happen. He was finally going to meet the gladiator man. Joe planned to ask where he lived, talk about how he was new to Fire Island, let him know he was single. He would not talk about Elliot. Joe hoped he wasn't appearing too enthusiastic. Ronnie, his best friend, had once told him that after you know a guy likes you, it's necessary to play it cool for a while. Guys without barriers look broken, Ronnie had warned. But that morning on the beach, there wasn't a cool bone in Joe's body as he charged across the sand like a desperate soldier at Iwo Jima. The closer he got, the more handsome gladiator man appeared. His massive pectorals and shoulders pushed against the fabric of his gray sweatshirt. His two hairy forearms, muscular and foreboding, hung by his sides, with hands thick and powerful, like two leashed pit bulls ready to either embrace or kill. He was all that Joe had ever desired, sexually speaking. "Hey, I saw you the other day." Joe huffed and puffed, a cramp in his side, the soft sand shackling his legs. "I wanted to say hi, but you left before I could." Joe was just 15 yards from the gladiator man when another voice called out from behind him. "Hey, buddy! Yo, buddy, where you running? You forgot something." Joe turned. There, shouting from the top of the steps, was that blue-eyed deckhand. The one with the girlfriend in the harbor? He started down the steps and across the sand toward Joe. He appeared to be soaking wet under his Pines Ferry sweatshirt. What do you want? Joe asked, hoping the gladiator man wouldn't hear. Hey, you forgot your Charlie's Angels lunchbox on the steps, the deckhand teased as he dangled the campy lunchbox. Couldn't this straight idiot see Joe was in the middle of something important? And who went swimming in the ocean at 5 in the morning? I left it there on purpose, Joe said. He turned back toward the gladiator man who had begun walking away. Did he think Joe and the deckhand were together? Hey! Joe shouted. Wait a minute! Well, which is it? The deckhand said from behind him. You want me to stay or go? I wasn't talking to you, Joe snapped. Right? The deckhand said. So, what are you doing on the beach this time of morning? Anyway, taking a run? Look, Joe said sharply, I can't talk right now. He then readied himself again for the chase, but when he turned to look for Gladiator Man, he was gone. Joe fell to his knees and punched the sand. Fuck! The deckhand stepped back. Jesus, what's wrong? Did something bad happen? Yeah, no, it's just I was trying to catch up to someone. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you before. No worries, the deckhand said, pulling a swig from a bottle of Johnny Walker from his board shorts. Joe noticed the deckhand's eyes again. Even while bloodshot and glassy, they were an even more stunning blue than before. For some reason, near the ocean and in the morning light, the deckhand's eyes appeared to be almost cobalt blue. Or was that indigo? And they were framed by long black eyelashes flecked with wet salt and sand, much like the rest of him. You know, it's not safe to go swimming drunk, Joe said, especially when no one's around to save you if something happens. I didn't swim drunk, the deckhand retorted. I swam hungover. You woke up hungover and decided it was a good idea to swim? Nah, I never went to bed. In fact, come to think of it, I better catch another swim before I work the first boat out. By the way, you said you were trying to catch up with someone? Who was that? Uh, who do you think? Joe said. You know, that big muscular dude, the one you scared away? Muscular dude? The deckhand gestured to the completely empty beach. Nobody on this beach but us and the seagulls. You sure I'm the only one who's been drinking? For Christ's sake, Joe said, how hungover are you? You didn't see that huge guy with the beard literally standing just over there? Chill out, shortstop, the deckhand said. Don't get your skirts all bunched up. The deckhand's smirk and gay baiting comment were the last straw. Joe mustered his most threatening glare, which wasn't very threatening. You always act like such an ass. I was just joking with you. The deckhand made the peace sign. It's weird that I miss seeing another human being that close by, but then again, I wasn't really focused over there. The deckhand's eyes momentarily latched onto Joe, but then he quickly looked away like he was embarrassed. Or maybe I'm still a little drunk. I better get back in the ocean and make myself right. He yanked off his sweatshirt. His lean torso was more muscular than Joe had imagined, with a perfect little patch of hair at the top and a small treasure trail between his belly button and board shorts. When he turned and jogged toward the water, Joe noticed he had an almost comical gait. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with his legs, though, still long and hairy and too sexy for a straight guy. Then Joe noticed something odd. The deckhand had huge, paddle-like feet, with toes ever so slightly webbed. Thus the reason for the funny jog. Any awkwardness disappeared, though, as soon as he dove into the waves. His arms, like twin porpoises, sliced through the water, while his legs kicked fountains. When he was 25 feet from the shore, he dove under and disappeared. 10 seconds passed. 20, 30, 60. At 90 seconds, Joe walked to the water's edge and recounted the CPR class he had been forced to take in his last job. Tilt the head, make sure nothing is in the passageway, then press your lips. At that very moment, the deckhand, like a deranged seal, exploded from the waves, enrobed in a spray of iridescent water droplets. He was gasping and laughing. That guy's nuts, Joe thought, before looking back at the stretch of beach where he had last seen the gladiator man. Sand, bushes, trees, and nothing else.